Welcome, folks, to a very special Tank Talk episode. I am so excited. You can see behind me, I'm not in the fish room. I'm not in the old fish house. I am, for the first time for this podcast, on location. And for the first on location spot, of course, I'm going to visit my buddy Mark from Aquariums Unlimited. Are you okay with your last name being online, or does it really matter?
Yep,
Mr. Mark Kornberg, who I talk about all the time. I said your name properly, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. This is the owner of Aquariums Unlimited, and you're on camera now. You're never going to know whether you're on camera or not. I'm switching it right here. So thank you for taking time out of your day. You got 7,500 customers walking through the store right now, and you were willing to let me come in here and occupy some of your time.
No problem, man. Anytime. It's always good to spend some time with you and Lisa, and doing something like this is different for me, so I think it'll be a lot of fun. So let's see what happens. It'll be an interesting conversation.
If we're being honest with each other, he did say he was very nervous, and I said, you're being ridiculous, Mark, because all we're going to do is sit down here and have a conversation. So we're going to talk a lot today about running a successful fish store, because that's what this guy does. I failed at that. He is doing very well at that. But before I get into all of that, we get into it, I do want to make an announcement for little updates here. I'm very, very excited to tell you that for the last 2 weeks, I've told you a lie, but I didn't mean to. I didn't intentionally lie to you, because what I told you before was the truth, but things have changed. Lisa will be at Aquashella in Daytona in 2 weeks. You're going to.
Yep.
Just right around the corner. Very excited about it. At Daytona Beach. Look it up. We're going to be there. Mark's going to be there.
I will be there.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Very excited about it. They're trying to get me to do things like escape tanks and all of this kind of stuff. I don't think I'm going to do all of that. I'm just going to go there and hang out with the people and have fun. But what's more important is Lisa is going to be there now. I'm so excited about that. So there you go. There is the updates. We ain't got time to mess around talking about stuff like that. The first thing that has to be said, if we're sitting here talking to you,
bring it on. When
you and I met for the first time, neither one of us knew who the other was.
Right.
And it wasn't the most pleasant of...
I don't even think we could see each other's faces in the dark of the conversation
it's true.
either. I didn't know who you were when we met the first time, because I never really got a good visual if it was nighttime and we were outside.
But even then, you still wouldn't have known I was that guy on YouTube. It was just, we were just two guys.
No idea who you were.
In the industry having a conversation. I knew who you were, but I didn't know who you were, because Lisa had been to this store multiple times and gotten footage, which I had used in my videos.
Which I didn't even know until just now.
And that's funny. But yeah, she knew your store. She told me all about it. When I was sitting there with you in Orlando, and we were duking it out, I didn't know you were that guy. I just thought you were some jerk that owns a fish store and
some opinionated jerk.
Right. But no, I mean, we were talking about it briefly before we started recording. It wasn't a, drawn out FU and all this at each other's throats. It was just a spirited
healthy debate.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just switched the camera up to put us both on at the same time, because it gets awkward if I'm talking and you're just sitting there going like this.
Yeah.
But anyway, you and I were talking that night, introduced by Chris Klein, the owner of Carolina Aquatics,
right.
Good friend of both of ours. But we had never met each other, and we were debating online versus retail. Again, I had no idea you were the owner of this mammoth operation that you have going on here. But we walked away friends. I mean, we weren't enemies.
We didn't even get that far.
Yeah.
I never thought it was like a negative ending, but like we just shook hands and said good conversation, and we walked away. Like, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know if I was going to see you again.
Right.
I didn't know where you lived, or I didn't know about the YouTube thing or the podcast and everything. So when we separated, it was just like a conversation I had with some strange dude. And I am not usually the one to speak up like that in a conversation. They threw me into the center or something. And it was a topic that I was kind of sensitive at the time about, and it just hit. And it was a good conversation. It went Everybody else got kind of quiet, but
Yeah, it was just me
it
and
was
you.
me and you. It was
But
good.
no, it was a lot of fun. And, did we realize at the time we were going to become friends? I certainly didn't. And when Sean Hale from Fritz, when we were setting up my saltwater tank, and he said, well, we were going to go to one place, actually Chris's place.
Chris's place, right.
His whole place,
They had some COVID issues, I think.
yeah, the whole daggone operation got COVID. And so it was like, okay, let's go to Aquariums Unlimited. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think that guy likes me. I thought it might be a little awkward, but not at all. We talked before I came here.
Yeah, you called me on the phone. I'm like, hey, I'm John. I'm that dude that we talked to Doc Rochella. We had this conversation. I'm setting up a fish. I need some advice. And I'm like, oh, okay. Then it was a good conversation. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I consider you a friend now. It's a lot of fun, and I'm glad to have a friend that knows what he's doing, because I tried this and I failed miserably.
I like to think I know what I'm doing, but it's a learning curve every day, just like anything else.
You only have to walk through this place one time before you realize that Mark and his entire staff, oh yeah, they know what they're doing. And that's why I'm here, because I wanted, there's a whole lot of things we could talk about, but I wanted to talk about fish store, owning a fish store, starting a fish store. In Dallas, Aquashella, I don't even know when it was, whenever the last Dallas Aquashella was, I did a talk there where I kind of talked about the whole timeline of my business. But before I did that, the very first thing I did, and this worked out for me pretty well, there was like 37,000 people in the room, maybe 40. I'm kidding, there was maybe 100. And I said, show of hands, how many people that are here right now at any point of your aquarium hobby have entertained the idea of starting some type of business that has to do with fish keeping? And there was maybe 4 people that didn't raise their hand.
We get that all the time. Customers are like, one day I want to do this, and one day I want to do that, or how do I get into this? We have a lot of people that want to do it.
Whether it's breeding fish or selling fish online,
fragging corals.
Yep.
All that.
Yeah, the saltwater side's a whole other side. So I think it's obviously very, very common for hobbyists. This is a hobby that's driven by passion. And when you're passionate about something, you're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do this for a living? And I'll tell you firsthand, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But
we all think that sometimes, whether it was worth the effort and when it's worth or not. But most of the time, it's a lot of fun.
I consider myself one of the luckiest people on the planet. But there was a period there where it was bad. But we're not here to talk about that. I want to pick your brain about this place. How it all started and all that kind of stuff. We're sitting in the new section, which is Reptiles Unlimited.
Right.
And I didn't realize you were close to the airport, but...
We are close to military bases, so you hear the military jets all the time.
Yeah, and at the time of recording this, the Navy is a bit busy right now. So we were just talking with somebody whose sister is off the coast of Israel as we speak. But anyway, we're certainly not here to talk about that. So you just said people come up to you and they ask you questions, or they say they're interested in starting some kind of a business.
Right.
If somebody comes to you and says, I want to start a fish store, your hope is that they're obviously going to say, it's 75 miles away from here. But
another state, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What would be, if they said, listen, you're so good at this one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Wow, that's a big one.
I sent these questions to him earlier. He should have had a pre-planned response.
An hour and a half ago. What would be my one piece of advice someone wants? Are you ready for the commitment? Because that's the hardest part of it all, other than the financial section of it. This is a 100% life-changing operation. You have to be in it, commit 100% of your time, because otherwise it won't work. It's a life change. This is my life. I have outside of it a small percentage of life, but this is what I love. This takes over my everyday, all day, every day. Even days off are not really days off.
He wanted to come to my place and sit in the old fish house to do this podcast.
Right.
On his day off. I said, no, we're not doing that. But I've had conversations with you at 11:30 at night before, business conversations.
Always texting, answering questions, not only for the retail side, but customers that have my phone number. Then we have a maintenance business as well, and those maintenance customers rely on us for emergencies 24/7. It's always on. And I have a text thread of I don't know how many people who just rely on us because they're worried about their aquariums, and that's what we're here for. So
right.
Now you don't have to be that forgiving with your cell phone, obviously, if you own a business, but I chose to be very personal with my clientele, so I feel like it's my responsibility to be there for them when they need me.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why he is as successful as
Maybe
he is.
Yeah.
When you
Could
are
be.
self-employed, I've been self-employed with multiple different businesses. Your life is your business.
Right.
And I know this man for certain is that way, and I've certainly been that way. There's no real time that you're ever really off. And we do have to mention, the store is open as we're sitting here talking.
Sorry.
So there's going to be customers walking by. There might be people that come up and ask Mark for...
Yeah, I'll probably get interrupted 10 times, but...
It is what it is. That's what happens when you're in a fish store. But I figured there's no greater place to do this than here. That's why I was excited. Rather than you coming down and we're sitting in the same old seats that me and Lisa do, come here and have a little change of pace.
Yeah, we
I
gotta
like
use
it.
this couch for something. It's here to relax,
That's right.
So,
It's a very nice little couch in a little lounge area in the store. And the sloth is right back there. You can't see her on camera. She is adorable. I finally got to meet her and kind of touch her a little bit last time we were
Lisa
here.
got a hands-on time when she was here
Yeah,
last time.
I got to feed her a piece of, what was it? Squash?
I think it was zucchini, I think.
Okay, yeah, and that was fun. I've fed a sloth. Have you fed a sloth? I have.
I hadn't fed a sloth till 4 months ago.
That is so cool. We're going to talk about that because there's things about this store that I've only ever seen in one other store, which was also here in Virginia Beach,
Yeah.
when thee who shall not be named. But we're talking about that advice because, believe it or not, I get people all the time that ask me that question. And I'm like, why you got to go to the guy that failed to ask him? But I always tell people, however much money you think you need,
Right.
multiply that by 10, and then you might get your doors open.
You have to be realistic with it, and you have to know a plan. You have to have a square footage in mind and think it through, because when we built this, we actually were supposed to do another endeavor by purchasing a fish store from somebody else, much smaller scale, had been around for a very long time, and that fell through for financial reasons. Didn't make sense for me. So, being that my heart was already set to do something of that nature, to have a store, I went searching for places to build, and this one had been vacant for a long time, and I'd always thought that location would be perfect, and it just worked out. The stars all aligned, and it worked out for me that this is how I chose to go. And then the people I met along the way made it incredibly huge and elaborate. What I did, you don't necessarily have to do to be successful, but I'm an over-the-top kind of guy. I go big, go home. I don't do things small, so this is what I end up with. And it worked out in my favor, but you have to have a game plan. You have to know what your financial budget's going to be, what you're going to set that money aside to do and for what purposes, and then go from there. You can't just jump in there and find a square footage somewhere and be like, let's just gung-ho and put frag tanks in it. It won't be successful.
You know the biggest mistake I made, and you will laugh at this because you're a successful businessman. Lisa and I, all the money we had was to start it up.
Right.
We opened day one with $0.
Yep.
Everything we had went into the setup and the first month, last month deposit and all that kind of stuff, getting the power turned on, all of that, buying the first inventory of fish.
Yep.
And I don't tell many people that, but we opened the doors with $0.
Well, and I can relate to that because when we built the fish store, we had a certain block of money. We did allocate a loan, financial line of credit that we set aside for the purpose of future needs, that if the rent wasn't being able to make, whatever issues came up, we had that money available to us. We thank God didn't need to use that. But in transition now, it's been 9.5 years, we just reopened a whole other store, the exact same size as the original, and if you try to get a loan these days, the percentage for financing is outrageous. So we end up having to use a lot of the money that we've had set aside for the retail. So we're kind of in that boat. Like we're penny pinching every week right now just to make sure that we don't overspend and keep everything in a balance so that we can be successful. It's going to take time for the new section to grow and to really make a lot of money. So we're all at the same kind of boat. We're just it's a financial game of just cutting your pennies, watching what you order, and being aware of what you're doing. But it can go south at any time if we're not careful. But right now we're doing fine. But
I feel like
I get where you're coming from.
I hate to like completely divert this conversation, but I meant to talk about this in the very beginning. Mark and I we discussed opening this thing up, that when we first met each other, we had a little disagreement. When you see his eye right now, that doesn't have anything to do with that. Mark's eye is a little red right now.
John hit me.
I did no such thing.
It was payback.
Do you want to tell the story? I don't want people wondering, like, what's wrong with that
why
guy's
is the eye red?
It doesn't look that obvious in camera.
It's not as elaborate. So basically, me being not smart, knowing that John was coming today, we have a little turtle we're trying to help out for a customer, and I went to feed him some bloodworms, the frozen bloodworms, and I am deathly allergic to the bloodworms. So not being smart, touched it with my fingers, and then went and touched my eye. So I got a bunch of pink eye in my eye. It'll go away in a few hours, but I'm
right
deathly
when we're
allergic.
done.
Yeah, deathly
right when we're
allergic
done,
to
that's
bloodworms.
when it'll come.
I tried to rinse it and everything before we came out here, but
No, and it looks fine. And you know what? People, because of the shadows and stuff, people might not have even noticed. But I wanted to be clear about that because people say stuff, and I didn't want people thinking, Mark and I are friends. I'm not hitting the guy in his eye.
It's payback for the conversation earlier.
I mean, I want to get into money a little bit, but not yet. Because my first question that I had on my list, which I sent you,
I did read your list.
Plenty of notice.
This morning.
What made you, I know from knowing you used to work at a Petco.
I worked at PetSmart.
PetSmart, see, yeah, we're real good friends.
Well,
I knew it was
we never discussed which one it was. We talked about big box stores. We never really went over
Maybe that's
which one
what
it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be having that conversation in a couple of weeks because I told you about this. I am going to be doing a series of videos at Aquashella. One of them is going to be big box pet stores are good for the hobby. Change my mind.
Oh, I may be the first in line.
And that'll be fine. You certainly can. But is that what made you want to do this, or what made you want to start a fish store?
So to be honest with you, and this sounds like a story, but when I was a kid, there was only two things in the world I wanted to do. One was to graduate with a degree in biology, and I don't know why that was so important to me. And then to either take care of like cleaning fish tanks or own a fish store. There was never any other career option from like 8 years old. There was never any other career option.
Wow.
You know, some kids say I want to work at a zoo. I did that, like I want to work at a zoo. I wanted to be a vet. But as I got older, I knew like those things were not really in my character. This was my ultimate goal for ever since I can remember. I've never had another, quote unquote dream or like idea of where else I would go. Even when I was in college and I got my degree in biology, I knew this was what I was going to do. The PetSmart job was a way of getting to this point, but this was the ultimate goal for me. It always has been.
Corey McElroy from Aquarium Co-op owns a fish store in Seattle. And if I was to, I'm not going to speak for him, but I'm kind of going to speak for him. If I was to ask him, what's the first piece of advice you would give, like I just asked you, he would say, go work at a fish store.
Absolutely.
Or
a retail of some form. You have to be worked in retail, at least some form, to understand the flow of customers, the flow of product, the flow of inventory and the numbers payroll. You have to have some experience with what goes on behind the scenes before you jump on to what you see as a customer, because what the customer sees what goes on and what really goes on is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. Learning the ins and outs, which Lisa and I, we knew how to take care of fish tanks, but neither one of us had ever done anything. I mean, I had worked at a Circuit City for a little while, and then they shut down right after. It might have been my fault.
I don't even know if people even know what that is anymore.
Probably not. It was
electronics,
Best Buy.
like a Best Buy, yeah.
Best Buy before there was Best Buy.
It was a great store, though.
Yeah, I worked at a Sports Authority too, another business that has also shut down. But I didn't know how to run a retail business, and so that definitely hurt. And I know for me, you're going to be shocked at this because you and I have had a conversation about how much you put into this. But we started our store for about like $18,000.
Wow. I can't even imagine. Like,
I mean, but hey,
how
which
many
one's
squ-
still open?
No, but how many square feet was it?
It was 1,200, and then there was a warehouse attached to it, which was another 1,000.
What did you sell? Fresh salt or just fresh?
Just fresh.
Okay, well that makes more sense though.
And it, we already had all the tanks. Well, we didn't. We went and bought a few more, 500 more, which we only ended up using 100 of. But we had 127 tanks already set up in our garage, so it was just moving those with the racks already built.
Right.
And so the 18,000 that we spent was for more tanks, inventory, first and last month's rent, all that kind of
All that
stuff.
stuff, yeah. Payroll.
Huh?
But you guys did it yourself, right? You didn't have employees.
There was zero payroll. Another absolutely critical error that we made, because we needed help, and everybody was telling us we needed help.
Can't do it by yourself.
No. We're going to talk a lot about your staff as we move forward, but do you, and you can tell me no, and nobody's going to be offended, would you have a problem talking about like roughly what it cost
I'll
you
give
to
you
start
an
this?
idea. I mean, I'm not going to be like, specific, but
Before you do that though, I'd have to say this.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen my videos of this store before Mark's about to say what he's going to say, you should watch those, because this store is unlike any other I've ever seen.
yeah, it's a little over the top. Even
is-
for me, it's a little over the top.
It is going into a public aquarium, basically. So this isn't just putting a bunch of tanks in a store. This is first class. Like,
We have a lot of large displays that cost excess amount of money. It takes up a lot of floor space that ideally would be used for retail space if we were smart about it, but the large displays do bring a lot of people in. They bring their kids in, you can hear them in the background. The kids come almost weekly sometimes just to see the fish. So what I did, and maybe the realistic view of what an average fish store would probably do, is not exactly right, but it works for me, and it's how I do everything big and over the top. So, but I can say that we had a financial situation come up that allowed me to make this happen. So I've talked to other store owners and how what they've built out and they've been successful with. The average, if you're going to do it right and not to cut corners and to not be like skinning your teeth the whole time at the end, you're probably looking at a minimum $150,000, $200,000 for an average size store that's maybe 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. My store, in the first half of the store, the fish side was 5,000 square feet, and we spent almost twice that.
okay.
So we spent a little over $400,000. It included inventory, payroll, all the livestock inventory, the displays, rent, build out, because we did a lot of construction. We did a lot of floor digging and drains putting in and that kind of thing. But we had it all mapped out from the start. We knew exactly what every dollar was going to. I was really lucky with the fact that when I did this, that I met the right people and it went really smooth. And the people that I met were just like you are about my store. They were all gung-ho with what the idea and vision was. So they actually like elaborated on it. They helped me build it bigger. They kind of invested some of their own money and time to help get things here that they felt should be here. So in that way, maybe it's just my personality. I was kind of blessed with that, but it is a lot more than you would have to do. But it paid off for me in the end. So
Can I be honest with you for a second?
sure.
That is probably half of what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, really?
I mean, and that's a compliment to you. That is like, I was expecting him to say between $750,000 and $1 million, because that's what this store looks like. I have no reason to blow smoke up your ass. This is just, I'm
Now, this
saying
was
this for
10
real.
years ago, so maybe now.
Okay, well, yeah,
You
sure.
know, who knows what happened, because I may have had, there probably would have been a little bit more. But again, I have a business partner who's 50-50 with me on this, and he's the financial guy. He's the guy who does the numbers and stuff, and I'm the fish guy. I do the livestock, so he does all the hard good buying. I do, well, we collaborate on that, but that's his responsibility, is purchasing hard goods. Mine is keeping the livestock, ordering livestock, helping him with things he doesn't know about because he's not a fish guy. But he's very good about keeping us on numbers. So that helps. You have to be financially aware of what you're spending, where it's going, what's the bring back to you. And even with the displays that we put in, we knew that these displays were not going to be money makers, but they would be attractors. So
Sure.
we wanted something that would bring people in here to see them, to bring people back over and over and over again. My displays that we see here have been exactly the same way from the day we put them in. There's no fish that have been less something passed away or had to be rehomed because they got too big. But the coral tanks are exactly how they were when we set them up originally. The cichlids, the sharks, the stingrays, so everything that's here you've seen develop and grow from the start. So it's kind of cool. We have people who've been coming here from day one, and they love it. They know the names of the animals, they see how big they're getting, they make comments. So it brings people back.
The cichlid tank was, of course, my first draw at the very front of the store.
Right.
He's got a Venustus that I've been trying to get him to give me. That's this big. He won't give it to me. He's a
Did
very
you know
stingy.
that was supposed to be a koi pond?
I did. You did tell me
Did I
that.
tell you that? Yeah.
And then it got overrun with imbunas. But
Right.
it's a very cool tank, and that's where a lot of the footage that Lisa got of this store was from that tank. Is that tank identical to the saltwater one?
No, so each one's individual. So the African cichlid display is 750 gallons, not including sump. The shark display with the lagoon is 1,000. The archer wall, which is not really archers right now, but we call it that, it's 540 gallons. And then the display in the back, the big reef, is 1,000.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so, I was in Fish Gallery
I love that store.
back in Dallas, the one in Dallas. I love it too. It's absolutely amazing. And I said I put it at number 2 to this one.
Mm-hmm.
They have that one 20-foot wide tank. It's absolutely
crazy.
Unbelievable. And my favorite thing about that tank, I don't mean to talk about another store, but if you're in the Dallas area, you should go there.
It's amazing.
The
I love
blend
it
of
too,
fish that they have in there. They have fish in there that are not supposed to be together, according to the rule book.
because of the volume.
But because they have somewhere to go, they do well, and that's awesome. But he just talked about 4 massive displays that are meticulously kept.
Yeah.
They're
Gotta be
absolutely
clean.
beautiful. There used to be 2 giant gouramis in the archerfish one.
Yeah, we miss them.
That-
They got donated to the zoo. The zoo actually requested them. They came in. They have a crocodilian display that has already giant gouramis in there, but they were all smaller, and they really wanted the big ones. And since they had gotten proportionately too big for their even 540-gallon tank, we were happy to find them a 1,000-gallon. Well, it's huge. I don't even know how many gallons. It's a lagoon. It's like a pond.
Wow.
They're in like almost a natural. They're better off.
They were massive. And was that tank always divided, or did you just have them divided?
We had to divide them at the last 3 months we had them because they began to fight.
Okay.
And not that they were hurting each other, it was more just jostling, but they were so tall that when they would flip to get away from each other, the water would literally
Oh no.
flash the floors everywhere. And they would get people wet, they would get the betas wet, they would get the floors wet. We were 2 or 3 times a day we were mopping and kids were getting soaked. It was becoming a problem. So we had to keep them divided because they were...
Might be an attraction for people. Hey, go there and get wet.
Yeah, but little kids screaming at 2 years old, I don't need that. So.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but that's the cool thing. And I mentioned briefly the Voldemort of the Virginia Beach fish stores, which I was a big fan of that store. They had a lot of that going on there with the displays where kids would want to go there just to see that.
Feed the fish, feed the kois. Yeah.
And now you've got that. You've got those amazing displays up there. And by the way, did we just add the copper bands in the lagoon tank?
They've been there a couple of years.
What?
That lagoon, yeah, they do their job, so they're workers. So that lagoon got overrun by Aptasias, and we threw a couple in. They've been there for a long time, but they do their job. They're always in and out of the rock work. They don't.
I never noticed
You
them.
probably noticed them because they were coming out to feed or something, and 'cause we hand feed everybody, so they will come to the employees or whoever's there to feed.
That's when you know it's a huge display. When you can go, you've been here 50 times and you come in and see fish and you've never seen them
Did
before.
you see the purple tang in there? And there's a few others that there's some wrasses that are in there. You probably wouldn't even notice them.
Yeah, it's an amazing tank. It's a beautiful thing. Right in the center of the store. It is a main attraction. And there's a couple of main attractions in this section too that we're going to talk about when we get there. But one of the first things that jumps out to me when I came here for the first time was, okay, I used to live in Virginia. I know how expensive Virginia is.
Yeah.
This location is about as busy.
46,000 people travel that intersection every day. We did the analytics before we opened the store.
That is bananas. I mean, did you consider any other places other than this?
We
or?
did. So my original location was supposed to be, well, the one we were supposed to purchase was out towards Salem area, Virginia Beach. But then when that didn't go through, we looked at Greenbrier in Chesapeake, because there was a lighting store at the corner of Greenbrier and Military Highway, which I loved. It was just like this. They had outlets everywhere for us. It was perfect from what my vision was. But everybody talked me out of it. They didn't like the location. They didn't think it was enough traffic, and I got overruled on that one. Yeah, which is fine. It worked out in the favor. But and then we looked over where the other store, who should not be named. We looked in that shopping center and across the street, and then we looked in Kempsville. So we looked a few different places, but this one, I used to work up the road, and I drove past this location while it was vacant for years, and I always thought to myself, it'd be perfect, it'd be perfect, it'd be perfect. And then when all that transpired and I went to call the landlord, it was just perfect. Like they wanted us in here, the rent was great, and it just, all the stars aligned, and we took it over. We had 1 week to decide.
Wow.
The landlord gave us 1 week to make a commitment because somebody else wanted the space.
Of course, somebody else wanted it, right? It's been sitting vacant forever, but it's right at the corner of two major roads.
Yep.
And I mean,
half a mile from the interstate.
And it's a corner unit, so it's absolutely perfect in a busy shopping center. And you're practically like the anchor store in here.
We were for a while.
Yeah.
Until the gym opened up, which you might hear the banging and clanging of the weights as we are sitting here.
I was going to ask if that was the Navy base or if that's people
over
there.
No, that's the deadlift right next door.
I feel like this is important for people to know that are entertaining this idea of opening a fish store very, very, very far away from this one. Do you have an issue talking about what this building costs you?
I don't want to discuss exact numbers, but so when I went shopping for spaces, it was all by square footage. So you pay by the square foot. So this particular location back 10 years ago is probably not that now, but you have square footage of your space, and you also have what they call CAM fees, where you pay the complex to maintain the space for you. So the original square footage here was only $14 a square foot plus $3 CAM fee that maintained the structure. Other places that we were looking at were $21, $22, $19. So for us, this obviously, the shopping center then wasn't so perfect, I guess is the word. It was a little older, rundown. But for what I needed to be, people will come to the store. Fish stores tend to be a destination location. They don't require so much the people passing by. So we knew that if we opened something nice, that it would draw a crowd, and that's what it did. And then the shopping center, we were anchor store for a while. We had a Big Lots that went away. We had a Farm Fresh here that ended up going away. But now they have the gym, which is great. I love the gym. But
and you've stayed the whole time.
We stayed the whole time, yeah.
And doubled in size. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I've complimented you on many, many times is your staff.
Yes.
I know a lot of people that own businesses, and almost every single one of them would tell you
part of it all.
Well, and they would tell you that they've never had a good core group of employees. What else are you going to say? Of course you're going to agree with me, but you have that. I mean, It
took 10 years. We've always had a good group of people work for us because I'm particular about how I hire. And I don't necessarily hire for fish knowledge all the time. I hire for personality, friendliness, open-mindedness. Their energy that people put off is really important, because if you don't approachable, then you're not the right person. And we've had a lot of turnover. Anybody else does. We have people come and go. Some people go off to school. It's a temporary job. Some people don't agree with some things we do or want to do things differently, and they don't like, but they come and go. But the group of people we have right now is probably the strongest that we've had for a long time. They're very cohesive with each other, which makes a big difference. They don't quarrel and argue too much. So we don't have a lot of that back drama. And I hear the weights.
Yeah,
you
just
feel
the
it,
weights.
right?
Right when a plane was flying over, so I'm not going to lie, it was a little nerve-wracking.
But the group we have right now, they are dedicated. They want to see it succeed. They're open-minded to constructive criticism. They do it the way we want them to do it. There's not a lot of backlash. And of course, I'm open-minded too, so they can come to me if they want to make changes. So we really have a great group. We have 14 right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many did you have day one?
We opened originally, I think we had 9. And then I had a maintenance guy. And then we hired a second maintenance guy. And then over the years, we progressed to 14. Now the reptile side, we have 3 back here.
It also says a lot that when you came down, which we haven't even talked about this yet, Mark's been to my place, yep. Lisa and I's house.
I love it.
He blessed us with an amazing catio for the cats, which they absolutely love, and the bugs are gone now. You should come back down.
Bonfire.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a big one too. My burn pile is huge. But when he came down and I was telling him, I don't really have anybody that I can get to help carry, two former employees of yours. They weren't even current employees. One of them's here now.
No, they both worked. One of them comes and goes. He's got another job. He's like I call him transient. He's on the payroll all the time, but he doesn't always work.
Okay.
You're talking about Greg, right?
Greg, right. And then and Doug is here now.
Doug working today, yeah.
Yeah, which he had told me Doug is a man of many talents.
Yeah, Doug's really artistic. He's really creative.
I will put his link to his Instagram, both of them, Doug and Greg. But he's got some. Check out his Instagram because it's absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it by telling you what he does because it's far. I didn't even know it when he hired him exactly what he did, but he and I are much alike because I'm a Halloween kind of guy. But he's extremely creative. You have to go look at the link. It's cool.
I am going to say one thing about it because it's funny. You know, we're four burly dudes. The three of us are much more burly than you are, but
Hey,
in my
I'm a
fish
big guy.
house,
I work out.
I'm talking about fat. You know, me. But anyway, I'm not going to call those guys fat. Have you seen the size of Greg? But anyway,
They're all big.
Greg's like 6'7". But anyway, good grief. Stay on track, John. I asked him what he did when we were in the fish house, and he said he makes dolls. And I was like, this
he
just
does.
got real weird real fast. But when I went to his Instagram and saw what he does, I said, oh, I get it now. Okay. He's not making weird little,
Yeah, not princess dolls.
they're something else. If you're a fan of The Nightmare Before Christmas, that kind of, even more extreme than that, but it's awesome.
Yeah,
Check it
you gotta
out.
check it out. It's really cool.
You mentioned you had a staff before you even opened the doors, like they helped you set up.
I hired, let's see how the timeline went. We had a lot of vendor help to build out the store. Because again, I've been in this industry for a very long time. I know a lot of people. So I had a lot of people who were eager to be in here anyways. I had some friends that helped. We opened with staff. We had them start working 2 weeks prior to opening because they did build out, cleaning, get the fish ready. But we didn't have full staff. And then everybody started first day on the day one. We opened them green. They never rang registers. They never did anything. They just came in the door. We gave them a briefing about how things were. They had been in the store and participated, but never like opened. We didn't have like a trial run. We didn't do any kind of like fake sales, or we just said, here we go, let's go at it. We got to learn by doing, and we had no problems. Everybody just jumped in, and everybody's excited because the store was amazing, and we had a long line of people to open up the doors, and our grand opening was crazy, so it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And those people still today come by and see us. Like they're all gone now. We don't have any originals, but they still come through and say hi and check in, and Facebook, of course, everybody's on there. So we try to keep our people happy.
When Lisa and I had our shop, we had one day where we didn't work, but we were open, and it was a Saturday. You can't not be open on a Saturday. But our oldest son graduated from high school. We're not going to miss that. So a good friend of mine that started as a customer and then became a friend, he came and covered for us, and it was the same way. Like, I didn't tell him how to run the credit cards and all. It was just like, hey, here you go, it's your store. And he did a great job. He made us some good money that
we
day.
were nice enough to explain the equipment, and they knew how to ring the register, but they never like actively did it. Like they knew what to do, but they never really did it. We did train, but it was a learning curve. Even for us, like I never really owned my own store. I mean, I worked for a corporation where they had everything guidelined out for me. Like, here's how you do this, here's what you have to do, here's how you have to clean this, here's how you do payroll, here's how you do all that. But when it came down to like figuring it out ourselves, it was just game on. Like we just winged it until we could get it right, and then it just turned out that we were smart enough to figure it out.
I'm the same kind of way. Like, I can take all the classes. I'm probably not going to learn anything.
I'm a learn by doer.
But just throw me to the wolves, and I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, me too.
Didn't end up figuring it out when it comes to my fish store. But that brings me to my next topic, and then I want to talk about this here.
Yeah, this is a whole different world.
It definitely is. And what is that boop, 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 boop I'm
It's
hearing?
the jungle.
Okay. We have sound effects in the building here, folks,
I have
for the jungle.
Jungle sounds in the background. Two reasons. One, when the sloth came, if you ever try to research sloths, there's like zero information on the internet about how to own one or keep one. So the people who gave it to me gave me best they could do. I got a couple zoos involved, and we have a zoo here that has them, so I've got their input. But like, all I heard about was they stress, and if they stress, they don't do well. And my biggest concern was this poor thing was going to come here, and I wasn't going to do right by her, and she was going to have all kinds of problems, and then we weren't going to do well. So I figured, knowing just my knowledge of animals, that background noises and things might be calming if it's somewhat familiar or has any kind of like white noise in the background. So that's where this whole thing got started. We just put some jungle sounds in the background just to white out the noises of the store, the air conditioning, the people, and just to make something maybe familiar for her. I kind of like it, so I just let it stick.
It is neat. I mean, I hear the noises, but the boop, 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 boop.
There's crickets, there's rainstorms that come through. I mean, I have rain over here, the little lights, so.
It's good.
It works.
It's good stuff. So don't be shy here now. Your store just doubled in size.
It did. Literally
When-
doubled in size.
What's that?
Literally doubled.
Yeah, I mean, the mirror size place connected, you broke down the wall and connected the two, doubled the space. Why is your store expanding by 100%? While we're hearing every single day, because you and I know a lot of people in the industry, every single day you're hearing more stories about shops closing down. Don't be afraid. Be real here.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to think what would be the real reasons. I think mainly because we're smart with our money. We know where everything gets spent and where it's going. We pick and choose wisely the products that we're carrying. Ideally, there were a lot of things that people might want us to carry, but the margins aren't great. Like Hanna instruments, everybody wants us to get Hanna, but Hanna doesn't offer me a margin. So by the time I ship Hanna to me and sell it to the customer, yes, it's great for the customer, they want it, but they can get it online and I can carry something that brings me more dollars. That's the honest truth. We make sure we don't overspend. We have a great relationship with our vendors. Key number one. I know every vendor I carry on a personal level almost, where if I need something, they're there for me. If I have a problem, they'll hook me up. There's so much more to it than just selling stuff out the front door. And then, the store's attractiveness, it's clean. Like my employees know there's a routine set. If there's algae, I'm upset. Like I don't like dirty fish tanks. I don't like fish that look sick. I don't like seeing a dead fish in the fish tank. That does happen. It's a fish store. We try to keep all that stuff under wraps so they keep it clean. We're very organized. There's a schedule for everything. You can hear them in the background clicking locks. They're cleaning cages now. They're misting cages. They're sifting the sand for feces. If it's dirty, people won't shop there. And another big thing is inventory. You have to have livestock. And I just know this from working in the pet industry at PetSmart. A lot of stores at PetSmart didn't keep inventory. The managers' bonuses were based off of losses. So if they had less fish, the losses were lower, they got bigger bonuses, but their sales sucked.
Oh my.
If you keep your fish tanks fully stocked with a lot of inventory and you keep a healthy selection, people come back. Because they know next week there's going to be another shipment, and next week there's going to be another shipment, and they come and see what's new. Saltwater is the same way. We keep our saltwater as packed as we can with as much variety as we can, because everybody wants something different, everybody wants something new, and everybody has a different need at a different time. So that's one big draw. It's like we always have inventory. And I'll find ways to we'll just not order product to get fish. If it's a month is slow, we're saying we'll forgo a little bit of something else to get the fish in, or coral if we have to. We just shift the money around to make it happen so it stays clean and stays neat and inventory is high. And with the hard goods too, we try to keep everything in stock. Even if we only have one or two of something, we don't let it get down to zero.
Well, you're forgetting what I think is the reason why the store is doing so well.
People. My staff.
I was going to say,
great.
the store is
Donnie
gorgeous.
and I are very relatable. My staff is very open-minded. They like to. We have a lot of repeat customers. Friendliness is the big thing. They got to say hello to people. We engage them. We try to get to know their fish tanks. We test water constantly for free. That's a big thing. We do a lot of water testing for free because that engages us and help them make decisions and make sure they're not causing more problems if they make choices of what fish to carry. So customer service is like the number one in terms of even just with the cleanliness. If your staff isn't friendly or degrading or talks down to people, then we won't come back.
There is in our industry, and I'm not going to say which type of people, but there's some snobbery that goes on. There's a lot of ego. And
a lot of ego is what I call it.
It's mostly the people that put salt in their water. But I'm one of those people now too, so I can't talk trash about those people anymore.
Yes, we contaminated you.
It's one of my complaints when I debate people saltwater versus freshwater is, hey, there's a lot of snobs on the saltwater side, but when you come in here, and I'm not some kind of big shot coming in here. Everybody's always been friendly to me. It's been It's been unbelievable. And there's some of them that we call friends now. And it's like, that is huge to me. And if it's huge to me, I know it's huge to everybody else. So between you and Donnie and...
I think a lot of people in the industry forget what it was like when they were new. Now, when I was new to saltwater, I didn't do saltwater much later in the game like you. I didn't start fresh saltwater person. And when I did my first reef, the person who sold it to me had that ego complex. And he literally just ran off when I said, what do I need to do for this size tank? It was a whole bunch of numbers and like equipment, but I never heard of it before. And he talked to me like as if I should know these things already. And I was completely overwhelmed. And if I wasn't a self-learner and I didn't go back and figure out what he was discussing with me or were willing to ask questions to him about what it was he was trying to tell me, I would not have gone into it because it was overwhelming. But that's how his whole store was run. And even the other employees fed off of that. I remember how hard it was for me as a kid learning about fish. Even to this day, like I look back at how much I didn't know, and I still don't know. Like I'm still talking to other stores, and we go back and forth with sales. We go back and forth with inventory and fish keeping, and there's still I don't know. But in the saltwater side, they get so caught up in how successful they can be or what their tanks look like, and they think everybody should have that level of knowledge from the start, but they didn't start that way. I think a lot of people forget that the new guy is just building a vocabulary. It's like kindergarten, and they need to be treated not
treated like children, but
like they have to. The conversation needs to be as real basic and simple first,
right.
And then as they get comfortable and more developed, they can get more into details and about different reactors and different pieces of equipment and the apexes and all that stuff. But if you try to throw somebody into fire right off all that stuff, it's just overwhelming. And my staff is taught to kind of figure out what level these people are at when they come in the door. Are they newer people? Are they beginners? Do they have some experience? If they have some experience, then you can kind of talk about little different things. But the average customer isn't ready to just jump into the whole conversation. They need to be kind of like held their hand a little bit and relax, get them comfortable, let them know the basics, and then go from there.
Do you get a lot of people walking in the door that say, I've never had a fish tank before, I want to start my first one, I want to get everything from you? Do you have a lot of that?
Every day.
Really? Good.
Every day. And it doesn't always a big tank. It's not always a 100-gallon or a 50-gallon. We do a lot. And I have talked to other stores about the business models. I have tanks that are this big, and I have thousands of gallons. They can get whatever they want. But the average person is going to come in for a beta. But that beta, once they get comfortable, turns into a 10, 20-gallon tank. And that 10, 20-gallon tank turns into a 55. And then they go, whoa, I want to try saltwater. So it all stair steps. A lot of stores want people to jump into these big, huge aquariums,
right.
Which is, yes, good, but not everybody can do that. Financially can do that or physically can do that. They don't have the space or their kids want to take care of it, right? They can't give their kid a 55, so the little Johnny wants, he's 8 and he wants his first fish tank, so he needs a 2.5-gallon, 5-gallon tank to get started. But that kid becomes your next, and I have them as my employees now. I have 3 of them that started out when they were 10 here shopping, and now they're 17, 18 years old, and they're my employees, which is really cool.
There is an employee of this store, I am a jerk and I don't recall his name, but he said, Lisa and I are the reason why he got the job here. Not because he name dropped, because he was working here before we knew each other, but because
I don't think who that would have been.
he learned the hobby from us and then came here. And then you obviously taught him the right way. But he was, the first time I met him, and he had said that, and I thought that was
that's pretty cool.
very,
I didn't
very
know
special.
that.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to figure out who that is.
I'll point him out when I see him, but he's one of the younger guys. But I had an experience, I will not say where, I will say it's in Richmond, Virginia. And it's not Schools of Fish, because they're awesome. I went into a store, and the employee that was in there, I do not recall her name, because this was 15 years ago, she was awesome. She would be compared to yours. She was amazing, and she helped me out with everything. I wasn't a new fish keeper, but she was awesome. And I would go into that store because she was such a pleasure to deal with. Well, then she left because retail, there's always
people come and go all the time.
It's just the nature of the beast. And apparently all the employees had left, and it was left to just the owner. And he was horrible. And I after I had to deal with him a couple times, I was like, no, I'm done with that place.
And you never went back?
Never.
It's the hardest thing, because for other stores that I've worked at, I've tried to convince owners of that same thing. Like, you have to be, your staff can't treat people the way your staff is treating people. and they don't come back.
Right.
And we have our moments. We are lucky in the sense that our customer base is always friendly. We have very few problem people. We don't have that, you see it on TV, like we don't have the people coming and slamming stuff on the counter, and there's an occasional unhappy person, but we do our best to make them happy again. But the other stores would fight back, and they would cause all kinds of drama, and you just can't be that way. Like it's the reality of the world is they want to be felt like they're being heard. They want their stuff taken care of, and we do the best we can, which is why I carry the products that I do carry, because my vendors will always back me helping the customer, and that makes a big difference.
We carry a lot of the same stuff on my website, and here we deal with the same vendors, and I can tell you that is a beautiful thing to be able to get help from them, support from them. Because no product is perfect. You're going to have some that
things happen.
Have warranty
People break
calls.
things fall apart, things get dropped, things just don't work.
Right.
It happens all the time. Even the best of quality things sometimes just don't work. And we're here. I mean, we try. If you've used it and don't like it and try to bring it back, you might get a little bit of squirf, because I'm not Walmart. I can't afford to financially handle every return. But if it's a legit problem that either was caused by us or you or the manufacturer, we will definitely help you. That's not a problem.
Do you have, would you be willing to share any like absolute nightmare customer stories? If you don't want to, I understand, because they might come back in the
I know
store.
you asked me to think about this, and we don't have a lot of really bad ones. That's the thing. Like, we have had fish thrown across the counter because we wouldn't take their dead fish back, but I haven't really have any like stories that are like that I can think of that are really shocking. Like that you just be like,
well, and I don't mean like they came in here with an AK-47. I just mean like. I'll give you the only one we ever had, because we were only open 2.5 years, and I wasn't there because I had another job, and I was at my other job, and a customer came in. I don't know what your deal is, but if a customer, if they bought a fish from us and it immediately died, we would ask them to bring a sample of their water in
we do the same
with
thing.
the fish.
It's on our receipt.
And that way we can test the water, maybe see what's going on. Okay, let's figure this out so that we don't send another
from
fish to
happening
their
again, which people don't seem to understand that. Yeah.
The lady brought her fish in dead in the bag
That you
and
sold
wanted,
them, right?
well, no, she took the fish home, it died in her tank, she put it back in the bag, and then wanted us to test that
dirty
water. And now I wasn't there, Lisa was there, so she called me because this lady was being super belligerent, and she was like, I don't want to test the water that the dead fish is in. Obviously, it's going to be
Skewed.
So I can't tell the lady to go home and get more water. I was like, it's a $10 fish. Just
give it to her.
give her money back.
Or some credit, or even would have been good. Yeah.
I didn't even do that. I said, and it's not like I made the decisions. Lisa could have done this too, but I was like, don't, just get her out of the store. Because she was like, MFing and she was going completely bananas, and her husband was standing there watching her treat another woman that way and making threats like, I'm going to burn this place down, over a $10 Mbuna. And finally Lisa was like, I'm going to give you your $10 back, and I'm not going to sell you another fish because you're going to send it home to its death. We don't sell fish to get them killed. And
we've had a couple of those. We had one lady in freshwater, I think she bought glowfish. And I don't recall if it was a new tank or cycle tank, but we went through the whole spiel. She bought like 8 fish. Most of them died. She came back, we tested the water, and there was ammonia in the water and nitrite. It was completely cycling all over again. I don't remember the details. I know she did something to the tank, and she wouldn't understand that if she took fish home, they were just going to have the same problem. And all she demanded was new fish. And she was, after about going around with the poor little associates, they couldn't handle it. I got stuffed into it. Then she started getting in my face about it, and I tried to explain the process all over again. She didn't want to hear it, and she started cussing and swearing and talking to customers, telling them she's going to go out front and picket our store, and she's going to call the police because we wouldn't give her money back, and which wasn't the case. She just didn't want to hear the answer. It wasn't what she wanted it to be. We would have helped her replace the fish if she got the situation in her fish tank fixed. But she was beyond even wanting to hear any of that. She was just telling how horrible we were, and that there was some choice words that we can't repeat on the camera.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then there was the whole, I'm going to call the police, I'm going to sit out front of your store, and I'm going to call all my friends to come out and sit in front of your store. Finally, I just had to say to her that she no longer is welcome in the building anymore, and she's welcome to do whatever she wants out front of my store with whoever she wants to do in front of my store, because that's not my way I roll, and we would have been happy to help her, but since she obviously doesn't want to hear a solution, that she can go. And that didn't go over well, but she finally did leave, and she never came back with anybody. But
it's a shame. I mean, running a store now has to be way different than it was just 8 years ago when we had ours. Social media was a thing, but it wasn't life to
Google
most people.
reviews, Google, it's like a weapon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, now there's the threat
bad.
of, oh, I'm going to write a bad review, and it's like, okay, if you get enough of them, one bad one isn't going to hurt you too much, but it's like there's always that threat, which that social media was not enough of a thing to be a threat then.
Right.
I'd be like, okay, please don't tell your 4 followers.
We have 950 Google reviews, and I think 3 or 4 of them are under 3 because of people who were disgruntled, and it dropped my whole rating.
Oh,
it drives me nuts. And those are the only ones that I go on and like I would love to be able to enter everybody's review and make a comment. I probably should, but I just don't have time for that. But the ones that are like nasty, that like attack us or an associate, that drives me nuts. If you put my associate's name in a Google review because you didn't like the way they talk to you or something, that drives me, because that person's just doing their job.
Right.
Like they don't deserve to be saying
doing what they were told to do.
They don't deserve that. You can say whatever you want about my store, but like don't put my people's, because they just earn a paycheck. They're here to do their job and make you happy. They're not really the face of this company. You know, they are, but they're not. So those I go on there and I defend my. You'll see them like long dissertations of like I explain the whole situation of what happened, so that your words of hate were not just because you were being treated poorly. But yeah, social media is a killer.
It's a shame, and I mean,
it's good and bad. It helps
if you
too.
have a local fish store that you love, if you live in Virginia Beach, do this for Mark because you should. Those reviews are so important. So go on there, do reviews.
I think that's the guy you're talking about.
Who?
Kyle? My employee that you were discussing.
Oh, I didn't see him. Yeah. Maybe it was. So, okay, let's get into the madness that is modern day Aquariums Unlimited and Reptiles Unlimited. How do we get to this?
This was a spur of the moment, always in the back of the head that you would like to do it, but didn't think it would ever happen. So when there was a gentleman behind us who was originally the person who wanted both spaces when we got the original lease, so it was somebody interested. Okay. But he was in Asia at the time, and they liked our numbers better, so they wanted us to take over. So we bought it. He came back from his hiatus, and he realized that we were taking over the front half, so he bought into the second half. And he didn't work out. So he was here for 4 years, I think. 3.5, 4 years, and then when he left,
and what did he sell? He was like
it's an Asian themed. It's hard to describe. It was Asian themed lighting and furniture and everything you can think of store. So he had plates on the walls. He had chandeliers at every 5 feet. There was a chandelier.
Some of them are still here.
He had we kept some of them. He had paintings of the Last Supper, and some of this stuff was cool, but it was very eclectic. I don't know if you can see in the background here. They got this potted thing here with the blue flowers. He had that kind of stuff all over the place. It was just an eclectic hodgepodge of all kinds of random things. So when he left, they offered us an amazing deal. They really gave us a chance to like almost choose our rent. Yeah. So right. So we had always thought, well, if we had the extra space, we could use it for storage or build out the aquarium side. We had more room for show tanks and things like that because we were very limited on floor space. And now you realize, but he made upstairs storage in this place. It really was like he built it for me. Right. that's how I look at it. But so when they gave us the option for the rent and the number was really good, we just had to do it. We weren't really ready to do it, but we just made it happen because we didn't do it now, and we turned it down. And someone else came back here, I would probably regretted it, to not being able to take over the space. So we're winging it. We're going for it, and I hope it takes off. So.
And they did the unthinkable, which is bring in an exotic animal that I don't know if I've ever even seen one in person until here. Maybe I've seen them in zoos and I just didn't remember.
I would never have thought, if you had asked me 10 years ago, would I have a sloth? Or the squirrels even, no. But when I found the person who was selling them and I discussed the options of whether it was a good idea or not a good idea, and my biggest thing was I didn't want to take an animal from outside the wild or whatever and put it into a cage and have a miserable life if it wasn't able to survive here. And obviously she's in a huge enclosure, so she's not like confined. But from what I understand, she's better off where she is now than where she was. And it's her care level is very minimal in terms of personalized care. She doesn't need personalized attention. She's just not a dog. She's very content to be on her own. So with all the information I received and the research I did, she just worked out. And it was like why not? Like I had the money at the time, and I was like, what, everybody loves a sloth. So
When you told me you were going to do that, I was like, there's no way.
Everybody thought I was lying.
I didn't think you were lying. I was just
Everybody
like,
thought
there's
I was
no
lying.
way that's going to actually happen. Who gets a sloth?
Yeah.
And I'm very upset with you, and I'm going to say it publicly
Yeah,
because I gave you the perfect name for that sloth, and you refused. And I still don't get it. Like it doesn't make sense to me because
Tell them what your name was, because they'll get it.
Mark and is it Mark and Donnie, or is it just
Mark
you?
and Donnie, yeah.
Both of them are huge Potterheads, like me.
Totally.
I love anything and everything Harry Potter. You have a Luna dog. You have a
Right. Dobby.
a Dobby dog, right? Both Chihuahuas, and it's adorable. Well, Luna's not all
She's Chihuahua. She's Chihuahua Dachshund.
Okay, yeah. So I said, okay, well, if we're going to stay with the Harry Potter theme, it's got to be Myrtle. I mean, come on. A sloth moving slow.
So I did consider the Myrtle in the
It's a
bathroom.
great
So
name.
she's whiny and she's kind of mysterious. And I did think of that at first, but when the sloth started showing some personality and she was starting to get a little more interactive with me per se, she's more of a Bellatrix.
That's mean. Bellatrix is an evil witch.
Yeah, but she's feisty and she's like savvy, and the sloth is the same way. She's like, she'll come up to you and she'll be in your face and be all lovey-dovey, and then you do one wrong thing and you're gone. So,
Okay.
so she has a little more of a spice to her. So the Myrtle thing was too kind of, I don't know. We thought about it. I actually did consider that because I liked it, but
I still think I love.
and we call her Bella. So
And that's fine. And I'm more okay with that. But Bellatrix is a great character in the Harry Potter series. But I just think
well,
Myrtle.
John, when you buy your next sloth, you're welcome to name it Myrtle.
That'll work. And what about the squirrels? You mentioned squirrels. Yes, he
Right.
has squirrels, but they're like some
They're
kind of
Costa
special.
Rican squirrels. They're called variegated squirrels, but that's because their color is variegated. But they're from Costa Rica. They're a little different than the gray squirrel. They don't hibernate. They're diurnal. They only breed once a year. Is that him?
Oh, is this your guy?
Yeah, they only breed once a year, and so they worked out real well for being
Are you the
captive.
one that said you got your job here because of me?
Kyle?
I haven't even seen his face. No, that's not him. It's not him.
Maybe
That's
it
not
was.
the one. He's probably the same age as him, though.
They're pretty close. The only other person would be Logan, probably.
Logan.
Oh, Austin, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe Austin.
For some reason, the name Austin sounds familiar. But anyway, hey, people are walking around the store. We're going to talk about it. Are we at least going to name the squirrels after the Weasleys?
They are Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. Yes.
Perfect. Is that their names, or are they the actual?
They are just now getting personable where they're actually starting to come to us. If they get more hands-on, then we'll maybe give them specific, like the name. But right now, I just call them the Weasleys, just because they're kind of rambunctious and just do their own thing. So
I had suggested Fred and George at first, but then you found out one's a female and one's a male.
one's a boy and a girl.
Can't really do that.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, where else are you going to go and see a two-toed sloth? Is it technically a
She's two-toed sloth.
two-toed sloth named Bellatrix Lestrange? The Weasleys that aren't weasels, but even though their name sounds like Weasleys, where else are you going to go and see that? And then the amazing displays. I mean, it's like taking a trip to the zoo. It really is.
It's definitely fun. And it's fun to work here
I come
when it
here.
goes well.
We're here probably once a month, right? I mean, maybe once a
give or
month.
take, a few weeks.
And
we
always
talk
see
every
something.
week or so. I mean, like we
Yeah.
don't, just because you're not here, we're not like involved. But
But every time I come here, it's like I'm seeing it for the first time. It's all so cool. And the employees, maybe not this one, but the employees are all so nice and friendly, and they welcome Lisa and I. It's awesome. I mean, what else can you say? So you've done good here. You've set yourself up with I would say this whether we're friends, because I was saying this to you the day I met you, not at Aquashella.
I just find it very interesting how the stars align, and when people are brought together, and especially in this industry, who may never have run their course together, and how our little conversation, I mean, you even knew who I was, but our little conversation sparked into something bigger. And even though we had like it was almost an argument, it wasn't like a positive conversation. We both walked away with a positive part of it, but like now look how it's changed.
Sure.
So it's just cool. And we got great friends out of it. I love Lisa to death, and
And I
on
mean,
the table.
we've never, like, my mother gave life to me, which I appreciate a lot. Yeah. That would probably be the only gift that would eclipse the gift that you gave to my wife. But when giving it to my wife, it's still a gift for me, because whatever makes her happy makes me happy.
When you guys started talking about us all the time, and I appreciate every moment of that, and I never asked for that, and you've never like felt the need to like do it. You do it because you guys want to, and I really appreciate that. It's like, well, at the same time, like I know Lisa loves those cats, and I was like, what could I do that at least? Because when you do discuss us, it does help. So, what could I do for her that I couldn't do anything on a business level? Because you guys have got I don't know anything about podcasting. I don't know anything about the online sales thing. So the next best thing I thought would be to get to her heart. So and I knew she loved those cats. And when I did go see how they lived, I was like, not that they're being mistreated, but like if I was a cat, I'd love to have a little outsourced stimulation. And Carl's a little feisty, so he could use, maybe that would maybe change him a little bit. So when I talked to Mark Beavers about custom aquariums and we talked about it, he's like, that'll be perfect. So we got together and made it happen, and it couldn't have gone any better. Like it was so perfect. So
being our editor, when I did that video for her, for the catio, that scene that we had from 3 different angles, because it was your phone, my camera, and Greg's phone.
Greg's phone, yeah.
It's hard not to tear up a little bit every single time I see that. And that's my wife. I see her every day, but that was an incredible moment.
She had no idea. No, I thought it was hilarious because I asked the question about what would you do for these cats if you could, and the first thing she said, and nothing else was an option. She wanted that catio. Yep. And, I was just laughing in my head because I was like, oh, you don't even know.
It's sitting right in front of you.
And it was so perfect that she did that. But it was great.
We've had a lot of nice things done for us. We've been blessed by this industry, but that's one of those things that it's impossible to repay. And I know you're saying you were repaying us, and I get it, but just it's an amazing thing.
Her reaction alone was enough to, because I do this for people all the time. I try to help people I know, and I have a big heart, and I take care of my friends and family, and just her reaction, and just having the friendship, and we'll be friends forever, and our relationship will always be around, and we always have each other's back through the businesses too, right?
Of course.
So, it's worth it. It was so much fun, and the guys were there, they helped, and they got into it, and Mark Beavers was all about it. Like he wanted to be in the middle of it all, so it was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, he was there the week before.
Yeah, well, he came to see me, and then he came to see you because he was coming to see you, and he had never been here either. And we discussed it then, and it was just perfect. It couldn't have gone any better.
I mean, it was another one of those things. Just like when you told me you were getting a sloth, I was like, it's hard to believe that he would do that. I knew you were the kind of person that would do that, right. But I was like, is he really going to do that? Like those things are not. $99
it was an endeavor, and I had to go through hoops to make sure that I wasn't breaking any laws, and that she wasn't going to be, because I had to have permits and stuff like that, and to make sure she wasn't going to be like mistreated in captivity, because that's the last thing I wanted was to bring an animal here that was going to be like, then once she's mine, she can't go back.
I was confused there for a second because I thought you were talking about the catio, and
I'm talking about the sloth.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're having 2 different conversations.
Well, you're talking about.
Yeah,
the catio. Okay, sorry.
I was saying, like, just like when you said you were getting the sloth, I didn't believe that. Like, I didn't believe you were going to get me a catio either. But yeah.
When I called you to ask you permission to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like, who gets asked that question? That's like saying, can I buy you a new truck? Like,
right.
Maybe not as expensive, but you know what I'm saying.
The original plan was to not tell you, and just to have it show up. But being that I'd never been there before, and I just got to know for sure, because if we bought that and it didn't fit the house, or for whatever happened, it really would have sucked. Because then she would have had her hopes up and it wouldn't work. So,
I mean, we would have made it work.
I know she would have made it work, but
I mean, the only thing that had to be done was they cut the hole for the tube, which I could have done. Cut it with some dikes or something like that. But no, that was you made that lady happy, which of course makes me happy. And Carl and baby Kitty. Meredith, but we call her Baby Kitty. They're in it every single day. They do not want to come in.
They have free access. They go back and forth.
Yeah,
That's good.
and it's funny because Carl will come in if we go in the fish house because he wants to be with us. Baby Kitty will just be out there all day like, I don't care about y'all, I'm out here, this is my spot. And
She's independent.
It's amazing. I mean, and there's cats all over where we live. They're always coming and going, and they just sit in there and watch them go by. It's like they're in paradise.
That's good.
They absolutely love it, and yeah, I can't thank you enough for that. I feel like I'm getting cheesy at this point, but
Well, I'm glad they use it. I'm glad that you made her happy. That's all that matters.
it was a beautiful thing, and that's it. Like you said, it could not have been more perfect. And that what you saw, her reaction was absolutely genuine. She had no
100%.
clue.
Yeah, she was shocked.
It was
and
perfect.
I think it was almost toned down because of how much shock she had. She didn't. You would expect her to be like jumping around, but she couldn't because I don't even think she could process it in her head fast enough what it really was, and it was right there.
Right.
It was great. It was great.
She's not and I was a little bit afraid of this. She's not somebody that
she
jumps up and down and does
told me that.
cartwheels. She's not overly, out of control when it comes to things like that. So I was a little bit worried, like she might be a little bit reserved and you take that as she doesn't like it. But no, she let it all go.
She did.
It was a beautiful thing to watch.
great.
And I can't thank you enough about that. But
Anytime.
we've been going for an hour and 12 minutes. Is there anything we didn't talk about when it comes to owning a fish store that we should have?
No, I think you got to make sure you think it through, lay it out, plan for what's going to go where, how you're going to, literally every little detail. I had all drawn on paper. What fish are going to go, what sections, all that stuff, because you never know what's going to come and shock you, and you got to have the financial ability to handle those surprises. You can't just be I guess you can, but a hobbyist just opening a store, it doesn't always work. And I think that's why a lot of stores fail. I think you have to have some business sense behind you, either have classes in business, knowing what goes on behind the scenes, how to relate with your vendors, what vendors you're I knew my vendors before you. I had wholesalers lined up before the store was even found. Like I knew I was going to do this. I had my contracts open with my wholesalers so that when I started to order it, because I had things take time to get here, especially when you're opening volume, you have to think a lot of stuff ahead of time. If you open your doors with just think, I'll just add stuff to it as I go, you won't be successful. There's always an exception, but it's harder.
I did just think, and I don't think this would be too personal to ask. I think it'd be valuable information. Now, this is a 5,000 square foot store. You have probably 100 tanks with livestock in it?
Oh gosh.
Let's just say 100. Who cares? It doesn't matter how many.
I think it's like 150 to something like that.
Okay. Do you know how much it cost you to stock this store?
Just livestock?
And dry goods
complete inventory with livestock. So we had $250,000 for inventory and livestock, $250,000 for build out, construction, displays, and fixtures.
Wow.
So I think we ended up like $125,000 just in livestock, and then because we have a lot of tanks,
and a lot of them are saltwater too, and those are a lot more expensive.
And live rock and corals, and we have big, huge coral vats. We didn't even talk about those. We have the big coral layout things.
Right.
And then the hard goods, I want to say we spent at least 150 or so thousand just on product.
Wow.
Because tanks get expensive, just everything, the Ecotech, Radions, and all the higher end reefing stuff gets really pricey. It adds up quick. You'd be surprised. You think you're gonna.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me, especially when you look around this place. When I came in here for the first time, I was like, oh, they spent some money on this place.
Yeah, that's what everybody says.
It's clear as day. It's just more times than not, when I walk into a fish store for the first time, I'm expecting it to be moldy and stinky and dirty and, like so many mom and pop stores are. Not this one.
Yeah, we mop every day. They mop with bleach and whatever they can. They clean constantly. It's a constant struggle. I've
never been here, and I've been here on Sundays, Saturdays, every day of the week. I've never been here and there's not an employee cleaning something.
Yeah, they have a schedule to keep.
You got a beautiful thing going on here.
I appreciate it.
It's a beautiful thing. Thank you for doing this. This is fun. I told you an hour. We're an hour and 15 minutes, and we could
probably talk for a few hours.
I was about to say we could probably go another hour and 15 minutes, but you got work to do, and I got an hour and a half drive home. So This was a lot of fun. Thank you all for watching. Thank you,
And
Mark,
I will
for doing
definitely
it.
be in Aquashella with that conversation about big box stores because I go both ways with that conversation.
But see, I don't know. Maybe what should happen is we should just sit down and make a whole video
can do
about
it.
that.
We can.
Because
I'd be happy to.
you talk way too much, and I talk way too much, and I don't want you to be the whole video. Is what I'm
No,
saying.
I wouldn't.
So we'll do a whole video, just me and you, and then I'll have the.
Because I just want to be able to give, because I've had both perspectives and they've changed.
I think that's so valuable.
So I think what they were then and what they are now is different. So I have different perspectives of how I feel about it. Because if you would ask me when I was working there and the way they run them, I would say they were not a problem. But what they are now is different. So I'd definitely like to get my 2 cents in if we can.
Well, and I think that's a very valuable conversation. So we're just going to have to do this again.
Let's do it. I'll come to you this time.
I'm going to have, well, you can do that, or we could do it at Aquashella, because I'm recording 6 podcasts now, because Lisa's doing one.
Okay.
Lisa's doing one with Joanna from Primetime Aquatics. And the guy that was sitting with us when we had our big blowout, the bald guy that also has a beard,
Oh gosh.
he is a professor of microbiology, so you and him would probably get along really well. He's a science nerd like you are.
Hey.
But I'm surprised that didn't come up that night. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm doing 6 podcasts at Aquashella already. We could do it then, or you can come down and see me, and
We'll see how it plays out. So much time we have.
there won't be any bugs, and we'll have a good old
Yeah,
time.
no bugs.
And maybe we can come up with some more fish store nightmare stories between now and then too.
I'm sure we
No,
can find
we
it.
shouldn't do that. I can say it about mine because my store's closed. He doesn't want to piss people off. But anyway, this was fun.
Everybody knows it happens.
Yep. Thank you very much, everybody. And we're just going to sign off now because otherwise I'll just keep going.
All right. Well, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.